Good morning. We are live. We have a little bit of news here. We had the U.S. ADP employment change hit at 7:15 Central, so that's out of the way. Here at 9 a.m., we're going to get U.S. factory orders month over month. And at 9:30, we get EIA crude oil inventories. At 3 o'clock, we have the, I think, very hyped up Trump tariff talk. Okay, so we'll see what we get, but obviously that'll be after today's trading day, so that'll be more like after-hours stuff if you're into that kind of thing. And as far as news today, we have a relatively clear day. We'll just watch out for U.S. factory orders month over month. Might move things for 60 seconds tops. And then crude oil inventories, same kind of deal. Might move things a little bit, but we don't have any like CPI-style volatility events today until the tariff announcement, which is likely to cause, in the kind of the early minutes of the after hours, a lot of volatility. Okay, so those of you guys that like to trade after hours, at least in stock market world, right, 3 o'clock and onward, you might have some extra volatility here to trade this afternoon. So let's take a look. What do we got? Getting a bit of a fade here into the open. I think the big story of the day here is that I think a lot of people are expecting a big old dump on the tariff announcement. We'll see if we end up getting that. But as for me, sitting down here in the low 19s when we were at, 20K talking about getting down to 19.7, 19.5 and below just less than a week ago, I'm happy with where we're at. If we keep going downside, great. If we can get that teal flag at the bottom, I don't want to say as high as possible because that would imply that I'm looking for 150-point 2-minute bars, which I'm absolutely not. That would turn into crazy, and I probably couldn't trade that very well. But if we could get that ATR 40 plus mid-morning, that would be wonderful. But yesterday was a little bit better. Kind of a weird day yesterday. In hindsight, if you guys saw the recap video I talked about, in hindsight, it looked so easy to trade. For me, I wouldn't say yesterday was the easiest day to just take setup after setup after setup. If you struggled yesterday, I 100% get why you did. I was able to take one trade, hit a small little base hit green day, but we're back today trying to get that trade quantity up. That is my number one priority right now, if the market will allow it. So we're going to do the best we can to get that trade quantity up. Show up, trade well, and the chips will fall as they may. All right, so we are 7 minutes out here from the open. Let's see what we get. Good morning, guys. How you doing? How you guys doing? We are testing lows here pre-market. I'm actually interested to see if we get a dump off through that low on the open if we end up kind of teasing this range. This gives you a better look. If we end up kind of teasing this range into the open, that'll be interesting. Boric, welcome back. Skeeto, what's up? James, Joe from Germany. Yes, BAM's tariff day. But heading into that, we might get some early volatility, but really after hours traders are going to be able to take advantage of that. And then tomorrow is going to be an interesting day to see the first 30 to 60 minutes of the open after we get that announcement. Yeah, a lot of people are saying, Joe, hey, we're going to get a big old dump off on that tariff. I think it's kind of up in the air because it seems to me like we're doing a lot of pricing in. And remember, not just a few days ago, we were, testing the 19s from the 20s. So we're down, I don't know, hundreds of points, 700 plus points. So we'll see what we end up getting on that tariff announcement. Again, more downside in my world is welcome. But damn straight, we trade whatever comes. Adam, good morning. Brian, what's going on? Are tariffs not figured in already? Yeah, you know what? That's what I was just kind of talking about. I think we're seeing a lot of pricing in early. A lot of people come into the market and they have this idea that the market is just moving and then the news hits and then it gets priced in. But the market it's just a sample size of people, right? It makes a prediction heading into a news event. And if it happens to be right, which a lot of times it will be, you get the initial volatility, trying to discover, okay, were we actually right? And then the market kind of settles in somewhere. Now, the more unexpected, I used to actually talk about this a lot on the channel, the more unexpected the result of the news is compared to like the rumor of what the news is going to be, the more volatility you get and the bigger change in price you get. The more accurate the big sample size of us, really, and banks, institutions, the more accurate they are compared to the actual result, you still get that initial volatility, but the less net change you get over the following days. So I'm interested to see if this big dump off through 20 down here into the mid to low 19s is kind of what the market was expecting, and if that ends up aligning. But again, volatility in any direction, but I wouldn't mind more downside into the 18s, to be honest with you. Just for the sake of us traders, that's welcome in my book. So volatility events, to me, I'm happy with it. No matter which way it goes, we'll just take it as it comes and trade the result. Yeah, you know what? Every administration should care about the market, and I think they all do, of course. When people feel rich, they vote for who's in power. It's all about votes. And when people feel poor, they go the opposite direction. It's all a big game. All right, we are 3 minutes out. 3 minutes out from the open. Let's see what we get. So again, those guys just joining us, welcome, good morning. My number one priority today, as volatility kind of comes back into the market, we've seen last week, we saw big, middle of the week, big volatility collapse. We were able to continue to hit base hits, but it was kind of frustrating. My number one priority is trade quantity, getting it back upside. But you can't force anything. You have to take what the market gives you. So priority number one, if the market gives us trades, take them. Ideally, we won't be missing any trades because when there aren't a lot of setups to go around, you gotta try not to miss them. Now, as you guys go longer and longer in your careers, I think you'll start to realize that with your setup, if you're taking anywhere from 3 to 10 trades a day, you might find, looking back, that you probably could have taken double or triple that. But taking every trade, I think long term is an unrealistic expectation. You will miss some. You'll get up, you'll go to the bathroom, you'll get something to drink, you'll get coffee, you'll get water, whatever. You'll eat lunch. And you know what? Sometimes later in the day, you'll be sitting fine on the day and maybe mentally you're just worn out and you don't feel like taking it. That's fine. That's fine. But you should take every trade the market gives you when you're feeling good, when you're sitting here focused and it's a setup. You should really be taking it. But it's important to try to take every setup the market, it becomes more important, I should say, to take every setup the market gives you in slow markets like we're currently seeing, where volatility is down, but it is pouring back in. So I'm excited to see that. Hopefully we get back to normal here. We're getting close, but hopefully we get back to real normal, if not a little above the mean in terms of volatility very, very soon. All right, we are 50 seconds out from the open. Let's see what we get. We did push into the lows. Here's a 2-minute chart. So I'm interested to see what we should do here. Let's look at the daily. That's what the daily's looking like downside. So what we really have seen, again, last week, maybe early to mid last week, we were seeing more just slower movement in general, but a lot of really wide range and then slow little trends, maybe 2, 3, 4 switches throughout the day in terms of trend inside of a big wide range. Kind of a mix of range and trend trading, which is fine. But usually it's going to be more leaning toward one or the other. So yesterday, certainly we ended up getting kind of a similar idea, but leaning a little bit more toward trend trading, but it wasn't aggressive trend trading. The candle closes, there's the bell. We're making out for some tough entries. But We'll see what we get today heading into this tariff. When you head into a news event and the day after, the 2 days straddling an after-hours news event like the tariff announcement here today, you usually get a little bit more movement, which is good. All right, testing the 20 on the 2-minute right off the bat. Let's see if we're able to push through there. And I'm going to let the market work itself out here a couple of minutes, and we'll start looking. It's hot. So let's do our daily check-in here. You guys trading personal, eval, or funded today? This can change day by day because you can go from 20 evals to 20 funded overnight. I'm curious what you guys are rocking with today. Me, I'll be trading, I'm going to do, same as yesterday, I'll do 7 funded Apex and 2 take profit pros. We'll rock with that today and see what we can do. Eval, John, 2 funded. Boric, funded. Eric, evals, too scared today. That's fine. Doug, funded. Scooby, eval straight to funded. Bit of both. Evals from Zachary. All right, guys. Again, in the coming days, I will be having a video go out of me showing a kind of a demonstration of trading evals with Apex specifically, how I prefer to trade them. If you're somebody who is trying to do this as inexpensively as possible, and maybe you're a little bit newer in the journey, it's probably not the way to go for you, but it's just what I do. So I'll be having a video out so you can see how I approach the evals, and then here you guys know how I approach the funded accounts. So I just want to paint a more clear picture of how I approach evals versus funded. Hopefully that can help you guys out. Chris, mostly funded. Have 3 more Apex to get to the full 20. 5 take profit funded. Beautiful. That's a great setup. Having 25, 20 with Apex, 5 with take profit trader. That's a wonderful setup. You can get those daily payouts and then really try to scale through Apex. I think take profit is a great firm to have a steady flow because you can take daily payouts. It's essentially instant. Whereas Apex, you know, you have to wait typically 8 trading days in between, and therefore you have to still meet all the rules, so sometimes it might be a little more than 8. I think it's a great mix to have those two. John, received my first 2 payouts. I'm sorry, received my payouts, not necessarily first, from the 2 Top Step XFA accounts yesterday. Cool, good work. All right, we're getting an upside push here. Let's see if we can push up out of this this recent high. I'm really looking at that 2-minute, the top right on your screen. Here, I'll draw a line for you. And Juice, no, I did not. What did it say? What was its reasoning more so? I'm kind of looking at this. I think the market's going to somewhat consider that, but we'll see if we end up pushing right through, if we end up rejecting. Because we could be looking at, if you guys look at the bottom as well, we have kind of 2 touch points. We could be looking at a slight descending channel forming if we don't just break right through here, which is what I'm waiting to see if the market decides on. There we go. There's a push, baby. Now, on days like today, remember, this is a little bit of a nuanced topic, but you get these pushes off the open. What has the market been pricing in? Right? It's been, well, I mean, this morning, pre-market, we're coming into the Trump tariff announcement, right? It's been pricing in some stress, some nervousness, some risk-off mentality. I mean, we were above 20 not just, not too long ago. So, as far as, like, fading this upside move, if you wanted to try, if you believe that we're going to see more risk-off mentality into the afternoon, you absolutely could, but you don't want to fade a move like this with big size and tight stops. It's very rare you're just going to guess right, because this thing could push to 19.6 before it decides to fade, if at all. But if you want to bet on a fade, what you could do is take really tiny size, much smaller than normal. and go really wide stop and look for a big point move. You can leave that on as a core all day if you believe we're going to end lower with uncertainty into the tariff announcement. But what a lot of people do, and a lot of people get in trouble doing this, I've done this in the past. I mean, more so it was on like ETFs. This was years ago. I would try to like top tick or bottom tick and be like, I don't buy this move. This thing's gonna fade. But I'd make the mistake of putting on, you know, normal size with a normal stop. It's like the probability of you catching the top with upside momentum like we're currently seeing in that little window of your tight stop is so low, you're probably just gonna get chopped out. So what you end up with is a low probability trade with really high reward to risk. Now, that's fine. You can make money that way. But for most people, you know, losing 10, 15, 20 trades in a row isn't really in the cards. Makes you want to quit. Here we are. A big push. This is interesting here. Again, I don't necessarily buy this, but we're getting volatility, which is beautiful. Look up top. See those orange bars? Now that teal flag is going to take its time to come up because it's hiding behind the orange, by the way. Because that's the average of the last 10 2-minute bars, and we've only had a few since the open now, right? So it's going to take its time to creep up. It's still averaging in pre-market bars, but those orange bars, we're getting good volatility off the open. Similar, if not a little bit higher on average than yesterday on the first few bars. So hopefully that maintains at least through most of the morning for our trading here. All right, we're about 3 minutes out, and then we can start really looking for a development of setups here for us. Heading into 19.5, again, that's going to be more like a tier 2 level. Tier 1 for me is like 20,000, 19,000, 18,000. I'd say 20,000 is more like a above tier 1, like S tier. But 19.5 is like a tier 2. You have a lot of people watching it, but it's not quite as relevant as like 20K, right? Man, that's a 190 point, 180 at least, point move. Nearly a 200 point move off the open. Good to see volatility back. All right, here's the test of 19.5. Again, kind of a tier 2 level. Just shorting off 19.5 to me is a bad trade. But I gotta tell you, I would be very surprised if we saw just a big grind upside into the Trump tariff announcement here this afternoon. Again, 3 o'clock is when we get that. This move failing would not surprise me, but that's not a bet that I can put on quite yet. I need to see the market develop something. I bet we just saw a whole hell of a lot of funded accounts blown. Whole lot of evals passed as well. My goodness, a 200 point move in a few minutes there. That's great to see. Last week, man, we weren't getting anywhere near that. If we hold 19.5 and keep pushing, then it becomes a scenario of damn, the market wants to maybe the market wants to go green and head up toward 20. I mean, that's really the next stop, but honestly, I think we're probably going to fade. That's just my opinion here from 19.5. I just think people like to have, you see this a lot. Of course, I could be completely wrong. It's not a trade that I can put on either. I'm just speculating right now. You oftentimes see a confidence pop like this, and then as the news event, again, 3 o'clock at the market close, it starts, creeps closer. You see a lot of more risk-off mentality, like, wow, we got a 200-point move. This is institutions, funds, big traders. Well, maybe I should just see how the tariff announcement goes. And as you get closer, confidence slowly diminishes. That wouldn't surprise me. But again, we've already seen pricing in over the last few days. So we're now in a lower position where what I'm saying, if it was above 20K, might hold a little bit more water than currently. But again, still a push over 19.5. I just don't buy it yet. But we'll see what the market gives us and we'll trade it. And I'm talking full day outlook right now. Just speculating. All right, we are past 840, so it's time to start looking for some setups. If we can get the market developing something for us here. Start getting that, trying to get that trade quantity back upside. It's been a little bit low the last week or two. Chris, pass some evals, good work. Just in time for the second day volatility after the tariff announcement here tonight. That first session of the real New York Open after an event like that is always going to be a little bit more volatile, ideally, hopefully. If you guys haven't yet, please take 2-3 seconds. Press the like button. It does help out tremendously, even in just a few people. It's a noticeable change when you guys do that for me. I appreciate it. All right, here's that attempt at a fade. Let's see if we get that. So you see those bars, right? Bull bar, growing bull bar closing near the high. Why didn't I buy the rollover? Well, we're before 840. I prefer not to trade the first 10 minutes, especially after open. Okay, the market just hasn't developed yet. It's just a lot of, it's new information. I like to separate pre-market information from after the bell information. It's just a much different sample size. I don't really think, for me, it makes sense to mix the two. So I need to get more information. So I don't buy that, even though I would if that happened at, 9:30 a.m. Central Time, right? And then now we're getting these dojis. Okay, weakening dojis. We tested a breakout of the high, got rejected right back down. This is a reversal attempt out of the bears. Now the question is, can we develop something real, 2 to 3 consecutive bars, or a range that I can put something on? ATR sitting above 30 now, 32.50. That's beautiful to see. Hopefully that continues to creep up as we get more and more after the open bars getting averaged in. Chris, on funded accounts, I use the opening range breakout on the 15. It's a great setup. Great setup. A lot of people use the 15-minute opening range breakout with a lot of success. All right, bulls trying to take this back upside, test above the high. They're not buying it yet. See if this ends up being a breather or a successful reversal. Just give me more information and I'll trade what comes. Okay, 20 seconds from the close of this 2-minute bar. You're looking at a 2-minute chart right now. Then that next bar becomes very important for me. Jay, good day. How you doing? Well, there's 550. That right there was a target on our trade yesterday. 551. You guys remember? All right, this bar is important for me. If we can get a similar size, because that previous bull bar was large. If we can get a similar size or, you know, growing, but not news volatility-esque, closing near the high, then I would take that rollover and buy for continuation. As crazy as it may sound, that is a setup for me. Even though I don't necessarily buy this full day pump heading into Trump tariff news. Still, if the setup's there, I gotta take it. We'll see if it ends up being here. Wick back down here. Bears aren't having it. Bears just aren't having it up here around 550, trying to fade this thing. 20 seconds out from the close of this 2-minute bar. Again, this is the bar that if we saw an equal or growing bull bar closing near the high, I would have bought for continuation. But here the Bears are really starting to push out those bulls. The 5-minute chart gives you a good look. Look at that big wick. 2 minutes left on this 5-minute bar. But you look at the 5-minute, what's really interesting here, this actually gives us an interesting look. You look at those 4 bars since the open, you get big bull bar closing near its high. Similar size bull bar wicking off its high and closing. Shrinking bull bar closing just above the previous bar high. And now this 4th bar, we're getting wicked downside. On the 5-minute chart right now, I'm seeing, unless something changes here out of the bulls in the next minute or two, I'm seeing a hell of a lot of weakness coming in, comparatively speaking, to the beginning of the move, which is natural. Okay, that's not unexpected. Just an interesting look. Look at that giant breakout from that level we drew right off the open on the 2-minute chart. That's crazy. Yeah, you know what, King? Says, feels like this is all a setup for a huge red day tomorrow. Hey, that'd be welcome in my mind. I'll take it. The investments can wait. What drives the investments, right? Well, the trading. The trading drives the investments. So the investments can wait. I don't mind. And the investors can wait. In my mind, us traders are priority number 1. Volatility over upside. Joe, you're done already. It's got to be what, 3, almost 4 p.m. where you're at? Is that right? 7-hour difference? get out of here early day. So we're 47 points off of a test of going green, which is kind of wild. We'll see if we end up getting that test. Now again, lately, with less volatility, like last week, the market was kind of hesitating around green to red and red to green moves. With more volatility, typically you don't see quite as much hesitation, but it is something to consider. It's just not good enough for an actual like short off of the break-even point. That's absolutely not, to me, a good enough trade to actually put on. But here we are. We're getting a bull bar closing right about at, just a little bit off, the high of the previous bar, which tells us a lot. I mean, believe it or not, there is a lot of difference between closing inside of this and above. Tells us a lot of kind of a different story about the recent information. Right, so now this bar here, closing in about 30 seconds, tells us a lot. There's the rollover. Getting a lot of bull pushes and then bull disappointments, right? When you don't see consecutive bars, that shows us more of a mix between the balance of buyers and sellers, right? And you can see the aggressive nature of that upside move is now becoming slightly more timid. Here, of course, is the next bull bar. Very interesting here. We got to see someone step aside. Okay, here are the bears trying to make an attempt at consecutive bear bars. Haven't had that all day yet. We'll see if they can get it. And if the bears can get that, then I'm watching. This one closes here, 35 seconds. Then I'm watching to see if we can get a third. One second. There you go, consecutive bear bars, first time of the day. Okay, now, if we could get a growing bear bar closing near the low, guess what? Guess what I'm doing? If we can get that, selling the rollover short. Appreciate that, Joe. All right, a minute 10 here from the close of this 2-minute bar. Really, I'm looking here. I'm looking at this 2-minute chart. I would also want to see the close beneath those previous 2 wicks that are currently being tested. You can see which ones I'm looking at. Here. Close near the low of this bar. Below that level. Is an entry to the short side for me. Even though 19.5 would be a point I'd have to break downside through, that's a tier 2 level, so I'm not too worried about it. But now we're getting wicked upside. 30 seconds till the close here. Oh, come on, bears. Fix it for me. Give me an entry. Here we go. Can we get a last minute save out of the Bears? Bulls are holding on. Nope, no last minute save. Let's see how this one develops. That trade's still on the table. It's not off yet. John, different tier levels. So I'll just keep it brief here. 20K, something like 20,000, 15,000, 25,000. That's like S tier. Like above tier 1. Tier 1 I would call, I'd still kind of put 20K in that region, but more like every 1,000, 19,000, 18,000, 21,000. Tier 2 I'd call the 5s, so like 19.5, 25, 21.5, right? Tier 3 is each 100, 19.5, sorry, 19.6, 19.7, 19.8. And tier 4, I think about, but very few people actually care about them. That's like 19.550, 19.450, 19.350. All right, 60 seconds out here from the close of this 2-minute bar. Let's see what we can get. John, if you enter short, where would you put your stop loss? Right now in this volatility, I'd be using a 40-point stop. Now, if I was taking an intraday swing, more of a longer duration trade, I would strategically place it probably with some room. Now, a lot of people would say, well, I'll just place it one tick above this curl, right? If I'm short, I prefer to give it a little bit more room just because I know that this stop hunting is good for a 5-10 point pop. So I'd probably end up placing it somewhere between 10 and 15 points above this curl and just take a little bit less size if that was an intraday swing. With more of a scalping mentality, which anything less than like 15 or 30 minutes in my mind is a scalp, I use more arbitrary stops. Just because I don't want to have to risk, 120 points to put it in the right spot. Doesn't make sense for scalping. All right, 9 o'clock. U.S. factory orders, month over month hitting. Thank you for the reminder. In minute 50. Forecast for factory orders month over month is 0.5%. Again, this will move the market a little bit, but not a lot. This isn't some crazy news event, so we'll see what kind of move we get. Well, the bull is kind of breaking my consecutive bear bar setup here, at least for now. Really, all I need is 2 consecutive. That also goes for upside, by the way. Now, if this turned into a bull bar and closed like here, that's still below this wick, and that's a problem because that's intraday high, right? But if this turned into a bull bar and closed here, all of a sudden I'm buying the rollover long. Also worth mentioning, we could be seeing an aggressive ascending channel forming here, though we really only have 2 touch points. I would not short the top of this, it's so aggressive, but I might, if we end up seeing a 3rd touch point, buy this ascending support. That's something I would think about. But this could end up being a mushy bounce, which if we were to draw that line, here, what I can actually do. If we draw that line, you get this big bounce. We had this yesterday. You get a test, and if this ended up kind of stalling out here, that's what I would call a mushy bounce. Very technical term, right? And a lot of times after mushy bounces, you see fades. So I like to see strong bounces forming my channels. All right, here's that test. Look at that. Look at that. Now we're getting an upside retest of that kind of developing. Again, that trend line is not set in stone. We only have 2 touch points. Well, now we're kind of getting a retest. I think people are kind of looking at it. But with 3 touch points, you end up getting a lot more looks. Now let's see if we can get a push upside through here. Again, we're getting a lot of back and forth. Green, red, green, red. The cleanest potential setup we've had thus far has been here. If we had this closing down near the low, that absolutely would have been an entry for me, but we got wicked back up inside of these 2 lows. So as far as price action, I can't put that on. Benjamin, institutions will be stop hunting hard today after that open. We will too, ideally. Okay, here we are. Test of the intraday high. A clear of that is good for maybe a 5-point pop on stops. Yeah, got about 5 points. 3 to 5 points. Okay, test of 19.6. That's a tier 3 level. Ten seconds out from the close of this bar. Then we get the rollover. Now this bar here is our tell, at least for me. Do this look. Beautiful, getting a move. Give me a little bit more of a move upside. And this could be an entry for me if we end up seeing a close near the high of this bull bar. Not obviously shrinking, ideally. I don't want to see buying pressure fading or selling pressure coming in. Beautiful. All right, 45 seconds out here. Let's see if we can get an entry. If this bull bar stays relatively large, I don't want it to be shrinking by some crazy amount compared to the previous, and can close near the high of the bar, I will buy the rollover. We're getting wicked down here. Here's the break-even point, by the way. Trying to go red to green, which is very interesting after this morning. Ten seconds to clean up this bar. Come on, buyers, step in. Oh, goodness. That's very much shrinking, right? Either we're seeing buyers step out, sellers step in, or a little bit of both. So now we rely on this bar to see if we can get an entry here. 1:40 till the close of this 2-minute. There's about 10 points in the green on the day here so far. The market, that is. Kind of hesitating around this red to green, but see if we can't just get a push, clear that out of the way, get back to price action. All right, sellers trying to clear the bottom of that previous bull bar. See if they can do it. Still need my consecutive setup here. I think we should probably adjust. What do you say? Again, I don't like to draw these things premature. It's only 2 touch points. I like to see 3, as you guys know, but I will leave that there just in case we end up getting a third test. All right, so the factory orders month-over-month number that hit at 9, the volatility of that should be clear. Last piece of news, again, well, we have the Trump tariff announcement at 3 o'clock, New York close, as far as the stock market, right? But at 9:30 here, we have EIA crude oil inventories. That's kind of like the smallest piece of news on the day, I would say. So we're pretty free and clear here as far as the rest of the trading day is concerned. All right, now I am thinking here of selling the rollover here of this bar. There is room down to a downside test, but I'm trading within a channel, okay? If we get a close near the low of this bar, and I'll sell that rollover. So I'm currently sitting short. Now I would manage this heading into the upside break. Stop loss set at 19,614. Currently 15 points in the money, and take profit down at 19,534, which is planned ahead, right ahead of the test. You guys see that? 20 points in the money. Again, target down at 19,534. Let's see if we can get a break downside through 19,550. Ah, shit, I didn't get a full fill. All right, you guys will see this in the recap video. I end up putting one out. I'm dealing with partial fills in some of the accounts, so you guys will see when this resolves itself. Target down at 19,534. Sitting about 30 points in the money currently. And there we go. We are fully out there. Okay, we are flat. So here's what happened. This is how I currently sit. So I got partial fills in... All right, what happened here? I did not get filled... Oh, damn. In either of the take profit accounts, I think my limit order got skipped, unfortunately. And... yeah, I got a full fill in 5 out of the... well... yeah, I got a full fill in 6 of the 7 Apex accounts, and I did not get filled in one of the Apex accounts, and both take profit accounts didn't fill me. Ah, shit. That's all right. That's all right. That's what you get when you deal with limit order entries. All right, now here's the third test. I don't even know what that puts us up on the day. I'll have to do the math here in a second. Make sure my copy trader here is reset. All right, Scooby, grabbed a quick 10 points. Nice work. Skeeto, what size do you trade with your take profit? Right now on these two, I'm trading... what am I trading? I'm trading 4 micros in those two. And those are the big boys, the 150s. So that third test is not, it's not working too hot here. Let's see if we can get a downside push. A minute out from the close of this bear bar. This would potentially be another entry for me, by the way. 45 seconds, see if we can get a close near the low of this bear bar here. Testing 19.5, getting a little bit hung up. 30 seconds out from this close. I'll only take this short if we get a clean close. We're getting a, you see here, we're getting a little bit of a wick. Kind of hanging up at 19.5, just a tier 2 level, but I do have to consider it if we don't get a close well beneath at the low of this bar. Also coming up back up for the test of the 20 on the 2 minute here. Yeah, 5 seconds, 3 seconds to the close here. We're not going to get an entry here. All right, so what do we end up doing on that trade? We got weird fills. Yeah, so we didn't get filled in 3 out of the 9 accounts. So and 2 of those accounts were the biggest accounts that we're trading today. So we're only up like $700 so far. But one trade, let's see what we can do. Here's the retest of that trend line there. Do you use TA or just prior resistance and support levels? Price action. I use price action, and I use 3 touch point channels for limit order reversion scalping. And then I use just simple price action concepts for continuation. Quicksilver, do you market or limit on your entry? I prefer to limit on my entries. And then I copy across the stop and take profit in each account. So that actually doesn't happen too often with the not getting filled, but that trade was in the money so fast that it just skipped 3 of my accounts. Jason, this is the 2 minute chart. I prefer the 2 minute on futures, at least right now. It's a good balance, I think, of quality and quantity of setups. The 1 minute you are going to get more setups, but the quality does start to fall a little bit, at least for me, in my experience, the way that I trade. The 5 minute, the quality goes up even more, but the quantity definitely falls. So, with those partial fills, we ended up getting about half of what we should have gotten on that first trade, but that's okay. That's okay. The market will develop, give us something else, we can take it. I'm going to leave this trend line on the chart, at least for now, just because we are kind of interested in it. But once that starts to clear, I'm going to clean that up. Also here, I like to clean things up as we go. I will clean, look at that break on that line we drew. That is beautiful. Here, I'll leave this on until we get a clear directional move, and then I'll either adjust or move it. I'm sorry, adjust or delete it. That calls for coffee. Be back in 2. All right, we are back. Here we are, attempting an upside move off that 20 EMA. So I am going to delete this, and we'll see if we can end up drawing a cleaner one. Maybe like here, but 2 touch points. I really want to see 3 before I lock in a level. Or more of an ascending support line. Yeah, Justin, listen, that was a good setup. I'm upset that I got partial fills, but gotta move on, that's okay. It's gonna happen sometimes, especially, you know... What in the world? Hang on. Hang on. Okay, well, hold up. Let me show you this. That's not a good situation that just happened. That's very bad. So, before I show... Hang on, just let me show you. You guys see there are now P&Ls, okay, in the take profit. I got very lucky there. In the take profit... Okay, so, to give myself credit, 6 out of the 7 Apex accounts, the P&Ls are from the trade we took. This Apex... Well, including this Apex account. In the 2 take profit accounts now, and this small baby Apex P&L, here's what just happened. And I should have seen this coming because I kind of knew this in the back of my head and I didn't really think about it. Those limit orders that didn't get filled on our short just got filled. And I'm sitting here and I look up. Oh shit. I look up and I'm filled short in 3 accounts. That's a problem. So, on Replicanto, that's scary. That's a problem. So, on Replicanto, when I put out a limit and it doesn't get filled on the entry, I reset the whole copy or I disconnected the accounts, I reconnected them, I flattened it all, and the orders stayed out. There's no button on Replicanto to cancel all open orders. This has happened to me before, but not recently. Definitely not recently. So those of you guys who use either NinjaTrader and or Replicanto, probably both. There's got to be a way to easily have a hotkey or a button that cancels any and all open limit orders. And Replicanto, you can't do it. That's scary. That very easily could have caused a problem. The flatten all does not work. The flatten all only flattens open positions. So obviously that was only 3 out of the 9 accounts that we're currently trading. But there's got to be a way in NinjaTrader to show, which I currently don't have anywhere displayed, all open orders. I know you can do it in Rhythmic, but I'd prefer not to have to do it in Rhythmic. I'd prefer to just do it in NinjaTrader. The problem in NinjaTrader is that when you set a hotkey to cancel all open orders, I am under the impression that it only does it in your leader. No, John, there's no cancel orders button. I don't know what's going on here. So that was scary. That could have very easily gone poorly. Luckily, we didn't see crazy volatility. It obviously could also go in your favor. But, that could have been bad. Alright, I'll have to figure that out. I'm trying to think. I don't even know if I know that I didn't get filled on a limit order in 1 or 2 of the accounts. Obviously, as you have more and more accounts, it becomes a bigger problem. If you right click on the chart trader window, there is a cancel all orders function. Not sure if it would work for this issue though. I think that would only work for the selected account in NinjaTrader. All right, so that's a problem. That's something else on my plate that I gotta figure out here. I've had it happen before, again, just not recently, so I kind of forgot that's even an issue. I installed a button as an add-on for Ninja that shows up on the accounts page, and you can flatten the accounts from there. It doesn't always work though, but often does. Well, my flatten accounts isn't a problem. I can flatten rate and replicanto. But canceling open limit orders that get partial fills or don't get filled, that is more of a workaround that needs to be fixed. What was I talking about before this happened? I don't even remember. I think the setup. Either way, that was a great setup on the short. Okay, so as we make a push upside here, I'm keeping an eye for consecutive bull bars breaking the high. Okay, and I'm also watching for channel development here on the bottom. So question for you guys in NinjaTrader, if I am on the account unrealized, realized P&L and position window, and I right click and I press properties, and I scroll down for columns, working by, I don't know why they don't just say open orders. I mean, it's kind of like sometimes I feel like NinjaTrader was programmed by someone who doesn't trade. Either way, working buys and working sells. I apply both of those. Is that going to show me open unfilled limits? Does anyone know the answer to that? There's very little information on Google about that, about why they title it that way and what that even means. Okay, so it looks like that may be the answer there. I wish they would just have open orders. I don't know why they don't have that. I don't think the developer trades. So let's see if we get a break through the high here or a better development of an ascending channel here. We may end up seeing this turn into the ascending and have to ignore this. That's fine too. I'd actually prefer that. So, Mark, my question for you, though, is are you copy trading? And if the answer is yes, when you flatten all open orders. Unfortunately, to test this, you'd have to do it in all your live accounts. I guess I could just get a bunch of evals and test it in evals, but Mark, when you hit that hotkey, does it only close open orders in your leader account, or does it do it in all the accounts? Okay, here we are getting a push upside. Let's see if we can get a push through this higher, or if we keep putting in lower highs off this this top up through 19.6. Yeah, Mark, that's the problem. If the hotkey in your leader doesn't have to activate, I don't believe the copy trader will respect that. That's a big problem with copy trading in general, but there's a known bug between Replicanto and Rhythmic that will flip orders if you cancel via Replicanto. Yes, that's right, Mark. So I actually had this conversation with ETP, the copy trader, different copy trader, with the developer, the owner of ETP. And he has developers who have worked on NinjaTrader, and that problem is not a Replicanto issue. That problem is actually a NinjaTrader problem, because NinjaTrader displays ghost positions often. So he was telling me there's EIA crude oil. You're going to notice not a lot of movement out of the market there. That came in at about 6 million. So he was telling me that with NinjaTrader, that being a problem, it's really hard for a copy trader to fix it, because it's actually on NinjaTrader's end and the copier is getting incorrect data. All right, let's get a push through with consecutive bull bars, and I will buy the rollover if we can get a close with 2 to 3 consecutive bull bars growing or the same size near the high, closing near the high on the entry bar. Yes, I'm sorry about the siren. I don't know how loud that was, but that's going to come through. That was EIA crude oil hitting. So I'm not sorry, damn it, it woke you up. I was struggling around this high, 19.6. Again, looking through the day, heading into the close, I should say. I don't necessarily buy this upside move. I just think we're going to see people with a risk-off mentality, unless we have some institutions with information that we don't have. But pricing it in a day early and then just bouncing into the news, to me, feels improbable. But we'll see what we get. Okay, on this bar, this one closes in 1:20. If we end up getting a close above, show you this, clearing this high, getting a close near the high of this 2-minute bar, then I have to put on a buy on the rollover. So we'll see. About 65 seconds out from a close here. $35 seconds out from the close of this bar. Come on, buyers, step in, give me a setup here. Did you ever try trading tick charts like other scalpers? I've always traded time-based charts. I have nothing against tick charts. I just prefer time-based. So no, I haven't used tick charts very much. Now again, we also could be seeing, it doesn't look like we're going to get a setup on this particular 2-minute bar, but we also might see a development here. Might be seeing a development here of this. Really 2 touch points, so we'll see on this 3rd touch point if we get a mushy bounce or a hard bounce, and that would be a big difference here. All right, here's the test. See if that holds. Yeah, really no more news today, so no more sirens, I promise. It's funny, though. All right, here's the test. It is kind of respecting if you look at this 2-minute. But we'll see if we get a downside break. And this is only the 3rd touch point. I trade onward from the 3rd. Yeah, so, you know, Juice, the like tax loss harvesting in December is always talked about every year, and it typically plays a factor. Around this time, that can play a factor, sure. But if we look at actual volume of what that would look like from investors versus institutions, here we are breaking downside through that 3rd test on the trend line. You know, I don't think making a bet on that is something that I would necessarily do. Right now, I think the volatility is going to come from tariff news more than anything. All right, so that trend line is not going to get set in stone here. The 3rd touch point did fail, and here we are testing the 20 EMA on the 2-minute, which has me interested. Kind of look at, actually I would probably draw it like this. I'm drawing these early today. I'll let you guys know when a trend line is kind of more set in stone, at least for me. You know, with that limit order issue we had on that first trade, it has me thinking. What I've been doing lately is using the ATM copy feature in Replicanto, and it's been working perfectly for weeks. And that has me wondering if it's worth just using the market-only copy method. If I could come up with a fix, because listen, even if I could display open orders that are left across a bunch of accounts in NinjaTrader, so I know that, okay, this account, this account, this account, they all have open orders. In that moment, what can I really do? Because I believe if I have a hotkey to cancel all open orders in Ninja, it's only going to do the selected account. I don't believe Ninja has any reason to do it in all the accounts, because the only way I get to those accounts is by using the copy trader. So I don't know. I have to test this and see if it does. Maybe the hotkey does respect every account you have loaded into Ninja. That obviously would be ideal, but I'll have to test. Because if it doesn't, then market only is going to have to do, even though ATM copy in Replicanto is seemingly better. If it leaves open limits on big moves, then it's not better. Okay, here we are getting that test, kind of the second touch point on this potential trend line. And it's not really holding up too hot. So what I'm looking at here, we're a minute 20 out from the close of this 2-minute bar. I wouldn't at all. And then I would sell the rollover is kind of my idea here. But I would need to see a downside move in the next 60 seconds. And Drew, I'll give that a shot. I saw you said that. Would it work, though, for all the accounts or just the leader? If someone else has tested this and already figured it out, that'd be very helpful, so I don't have to go around testing. All right, still going to leave that trend line on. Again, I prefer to see an overextension or two rather than a near miss. All right, Drew, that's very good to know. I appreciate that. Thank you. All right, here we are getting another attempt at a push. We are forming somewhat of a potential kind of flat top up here. I am watching this. Again, looking for either a range development or a continuation setup. I'll take either, I don't care. Still getting a test here of this trend line. The 20 EMA is really becoming kind of the story here. The 20 EMAs hold them, and we're now seeing the retest here of that potential trend line. Again, it wasn't set in stone. We really only got 2 touch points, but that retest is something to watch. You guys see what this is turning into, right? It's sloppy, but that's starting to be what it kind of looks like here. And wedges are notorious for breaking the flat top or bottom, so we'll see if we end up getting that. Really testing this flat top here. Wouldn't surprise me at all to see this break. I can't bet on the break, but once we get a break, I'll happily do so. Rob, I'll sacrifice a few dollars here and there to avoid the nightmare that can happen sometimes in copy trading by using market orders instead of limit orders. Yeah, so historically I've always used market orders on copying. The ATM, like strategy copier in Replicanto was working very well, but you're still using limits. So maybe I'll end up making the change back to market. We'll just see. Okay, so this is very much so becoming this wedge here. It's becoming painfully obvious. So someone's going to win here in a big way. We'll see who it is and we'll trade the result. Really teasing that flat top here. As this wedge tightens in, something's gonna break. Here's the test. There it is. Let's see if we get a break. You know, I'd ideally want to clear that wick upside, and then see it close near the high of a bull bar. So really, close above 19,630 would be an entry for me here, but we only have 30 seconds left on this bar, so let's see if we can actually break through. As far as channel width now, what, 30 points? Pretty tight. This thing's gonna break. Now, interestingly, this channel is kind of, or this wedge, I should say, is kind of forming, if you notice, right around that break-even point on the day. This market lately has been hesitating around red to green, green to red. Eventually we clear it and make some headway, but right now. We get a break upside through this flat top, 2 consecutive bull bars, the entry bar closing near its high. That is a buy on the rollover entry for me. Let's see what we can get. Listen, if you guys haven't already, please press the like button. Tremendously helps out. Really does. Few people do it. There's a noticeable uptick. I appreciate you doing that for me. This wedge, baby, is tightening down hard. So, worth mentioning that 20 EMA and the trend line are lining up. So all of a sudden it becomes relevant. The 20 is relevant enough to include in that statement, right? But these flat tops notoriously are weak in wedges like this, flat bottoms as well. But right now, I don't care which direction we break as long as we get a nice high volatility couple of 2-minute bars on the break. As far as channel scalping here, by the time we got 3 touch points, which we do now have on that bottom ascending support, the channel's far too tight for me to start channel scalping. Unfortunately, I'd love to be able to, but it's too tight. We're gonna get something. Actually, I want to show you this. We're gonna get something here. If this 20 gives out, we could see a downside break. That wedge is starting to get a little bit more sloppy. But this mark, it's gonna break one way or the other. Betting on which direction it does break, I think, is a tall order. But before I can really take anything, we need to pick a direction here. He's in that flat top again. Test number 4 of the flat top. Arguably 5. "35 seconds left on this 2-minute bar." You can see the 5-minute, it's really tightening up. There's a test of the break. And these flat tops notoriously weak. There's a close at the high of that bull bar. That's relatively promising. Still have not cleared this wick. This bar here is very important to me, at least to us. If I get a close near the high of this bull bar, I will buy the rollover as long as it's equal or growing size compared to this bar approximately. Doesn't have to be perfect. Flat tops and flat bottoms, both in comparison to an ascending support or descending resistance that form a wedge. I have found that the probability of break is slightly higher on the flat side than it is the ascending or descending level. meaning on average, they're just a little bit more tempting to break. "60 seconds out from the close of this bar." That'll also be a close of the 5-minute bar. See if we can get a push upside. Grow this bull bar a little bit on the 2-minute chart, and then give me a close on the 2-minute chart near the high of the bar. Suppose that'd also be a close near the high on the 5 in this case. 30 seconds from the close of this bar. We can downside a little bit here. "12 seconds. I'll be ready in case we get a last-minute adjustment. Weak rollover. Weak, weak, weak. Here's the retest of the flat top. And the break and the retest of the 20. See that weakening? This right here is a good example of why I can't buy that. Well, it's time to make an adjustment here. Let's adjust this. Benjamin, if you were to buy that last setup, if it set up for me, where would you set the stop with it approaching yesterday's high? There I would have used with continuation, it would have been an arbitrary 40-point stop. My entries are picky enough with continuation setups where my stop doesn't have to be anything so strategic. Though again, if we think about where would it have been, let's say I'd gotten a fill up here maybe around 650. That stop would have been down here right at about 610, so it would have had to clear downside through that flat top anyway. But there was no trade there, there was no setup. Well, I think it's fair at this point. Why don't we remove this flat top? We know it's there. I just want to keep things clean and give this ascending trend line kind of some room to potentially prove itself. Still a little early in that development, considering we had to deal with the flat top, that wedge, the whole time it was developing. And we really never got the opportunity to get some strong bounces. They weren't mushy, but they weren't incredible. Trend line currently lining up with both 19.6, which is a tier 3 level, and the 20 EMA on the 2-minute. So if we think about an entry here, if I took this entry right off this trend line here at 19.6, I would need to get a push through the high. Okay. If I'm running a 40-point ratio, which today I am. That's a little bit tough. It adds a layer of complexity. I would prefer to be able to hit target prior to testing the high. Also considering we're, you look here. Right, I mean, we're lining up with yesterday, so. Few things to consider. But I'm open to both. I'm open to trading that upside ascending trend line if we can get a nice strong push and then pull back. But if we get a nice strong push that leads to a clean continuation setup, I'm also open to that, even though you could make the argument that we're kind of seeing this develop, right? Which is a new form of wedge, but we'll take that as it comes. Now, similar to that short setup we took earlier, a continuation inside of a channel, right? Well, in order to get a good entry here, I would need it to close at least 60 seconds from now at about 6:30. That gives me 10, 15 points before the test. These are the kind of things that I think ahead on. So I'd want to clear that for continuation here. Or get a nice strong push and then pull back and buy for reversion scalping with a limit order at the trend line. I'm open to either. Or a mix of both. .30 bounce here. Kind of tight. I don't want to make a 40-point ask out of a 30-point bounce. Nico, you pretty much only trade that 2-minute bar technique? No, I also trade channels. You guys haven't seen that very, very much on the streams lately because we just haven't had much in terms of wide enough channels. And the setups mostly have been kind of overwhelmingly to the continuation side. But that'll change. Sometimes you'll see overwhelmingly it's channel scalping. ATR is currently sitting at about 28. You can't see it, but I just checked. It's about 27, 28 right now. It's falling a little bit, but as we start seeing breaking out of this channel, wouldn't surprise me if that holds deeper into the day or actually turns upside a little bit. Get a little more movement here, come on. We've been around this break-even point. I mean, look at this, guys. We're not even 30 points, hardly 25 into the green on the day. These couple of wedges that we've seen form have really been around the break-even point. Well, yeah, you're right. I mean, Rob, we're really struggling around yesterday's high. We're getting basically 25, 30 point bounces out of this wedge. Kind of tight. I mean, what I really don't want to see as far as if you're a bull right now is mushier and mushier bounces as the wedge kind of comes to a point. You better look here. That really tempts a downside break. We do have that trend line and the 20 EMA to the downside. That doesn't mean you can't just snap it up immediately. But right now, I just want to see volatility expansion in either direction, and it doesn't take much. I mean, my trading day can go from this to hitting trade after trade after trade in just a few minutes. Just got to see some kind of decisive move here. Liberty, ascending wedge is bearish, I believe. Yeah, if we see these mushy bounces continue, it's entirely possible, if not probable, to see a downside snap up here. Here's another test. We're really hanging on to this break-even point, and we're struggling to maintain 10, 20, 30 points in the green on the day. All right, here's the real test now. Testing that 20 EMA. You could see the snap up here. Otherwise, we'll have to address or adjust the trend line. I would love to see a downside break here, to be honest with you. Light a fire, get some volatility coming in. There's the test, the 20. Buyer's not quite ready to give up here. We can get a forced rollover. That'd be beautiful to see. Okay, 50 seconds out from the close of this 2-minute bar. If we can get a close beneath this wick, well, really these couple of wicks, then I would happily sell the rollover. But I need to see that. And it would need to be near the low of the bar. $15 seconds. I would need about a 15-point drop here to sell that rollover. A bit of a drop. Closing inside of those wicks. You see that? I want no sign of life as far as an ascending wedge maintaining for the bulls to hold on to hope with. So this bar becomes very crucial. Here's that downside attempt at a break that we were talking about. Minute 25 out from the close of this 2-minute bar. Yeah, we took one winning short inside of a channel a little earlier. Looking to tack on a second trade here. Oh, bulls, step out of the way. It's over, baby. There we go. Bit of a move. That short would also give us some potential, if we can get a close, of taking out a few stops through this region. Not a whole hell of a lot at once, but it would give some added liquidity at least in our favor. Adds a % or two to the probability of the trade. Come on, give me a push downside, close near the low. 17 seconds out from the close of this 2-minute. Wicked upside. A trade. Yeah, you see that doji, right? That white candle? At the very last minute, last few seconds, 5-10 seconds, which is the most updated information, right? Which is why I care about the close at all. It's not really just arbitrary. But hang on, this bar, we're a minute 20 out from the close. This bar, the setup is still there. But this bar's close is important. When you get a doji like that, after the whole bar is basically red the entire time, what does that tell us? Well, think about it, right? In the last 5-10 seconds, you had either one of 3 scenarios. Sellers step out, buying pressure remain the same. Or you had you have sellers step out, buying pressure remain the same. You have sellers stay the same, buying pressure step in, or you get both at the same time, right? And that goes against my thesis, so I can't take that. $25 seconds out from the close. You guys know we're still sitting right around that break-even point. Look at this, we're sitting 0% on the day. We're just getting sucked to this point here. So, to add on to what I was discussing, why didn't I sell short, right? Well, that's an attempt at a reversal signal, okay? Now the probability when you're in a downside potential move and you get that doji, the probability of getting this reversal is not quite 54, 55%, at least in my experience, which is why it's like, well, why don't you buy it then? Because the probability shifts back toward 51 to 52% for a reversal, whereas had we gotten this bar closing like down here right at the low, all of a sudden I'm selling the rollover. Probability there, in my experience, is going to be 54, 55, 56%. Yeah, I don't even add water. I just eat the grounds, baby. I chew it up. Okay, so if we can get, now you guys see we're getting another flat top here. Let's actually draw that up. Let's mark up the chart. We're gonna delete this. And we're going to leave that ascending resistance potential. And what we'll do here, I'm going to draw that right in the middle. So now we're left with this kind of scenario where you have two levels, maybe 15 points apart. Okay, here's the attempt at the flat top break. So I'm going to extend this. And I know everyone's looking at this. Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. 60 seconds out from the close of this bar. Don't give me too much volatility now. But give me a close at the high of this bar and I will buy the rollover 50 seconds from now if we can get a close near the high. But what I don't want is some 100-point range on this bar because now you're tempting fate with an ATR pullback. I want that Goldilocks zone. All right, bulls, slow it down. 30 seconds out from the close here. With every uptick, risk increases, so 20 seconds out. Ten seconds. Seller stepping in, getting a wick downside, hands off, no trade. Now, a retest of this ascending level would not surprise me at all. We'll see if we get that. Now, as far as entry on that 2-minute bar, had we closed essentially above 19,660, really it's a discretionary call with wick size compared to the size of the overall bar and how late we see the adjustment. So, if we end up seeing upside movement into that close and we spent a whole, like let's say this bar here, we got to pop off the open of the bar, and then we spend most of the bar in this range, and then we see an upside move and a close here, I would have bought. But what we really saw is most of the bar up in this region, and then a late pullback, and then a close of the bar. It is discretionary, but I think you guys kind of understand what I'm getting at. Okay, so 30 seconds out from the close of this bar. Same idea here applies. Ten seconds out, 5 seconds out. Bit of a pull. All right, I will buy that rollover there, and we're sitting long. A couple points in the money. Stop is right at the high of this flat top, essentially. Okay, stop currently 19,634, and target will be a break through 19.7 up toward 19,714, but we'll see how 19.7 reacts if we end up getting that. All right, copier worked just fine on that trade, so we are okay in all the accounts, so we'll see how that works out. See if we can get a little continuation here. This is a nice push upside. 12, 13 points, 14 points in the money. 20 points in the money. So entry is 19,674. Stop is sitting at 19,634. Take profit currently up at 19,714, but I want to see how 19.7 reacts. Sitting 15 points in the money right now. Okay, coming into 19.7, let's see how we act around there. I don't necessarily want to have to take it off. And this is just kind of a tier 3 level, 19.7. But 21 points, 22 points in the money. I'm gonna let it work. Little bit of struggle at 7, but there is the push through. Okay, target again, 714. 30 points in the money right now. I'm going to let it sit. With the pull back to 19.7. It's not over till it's over. Learned that a long time ago. Come on, give me a 10 point pop up through 714. We are sitting long at 19,674. Need about 10 more points to get my 40 out of this trade. There we go, coming into 710. Let's see if we can get a push through 710. All right, testing 710. Again, 714 is target. And we are fully out there. Beautiful. Okay, so here is where we now sit on the day. That added another, I think, 1,400 bucks on top. So I think we're sitting at 2,400 in the money, if I'm right at this point. So we'll see what else we can get. Trick biscuit, nice, good work. Look at that pull. Oh my goodness, did we top tick? Oh my goodness, look at this. Look at this. That was our target, 714. Wow, we got a fill too. Okay, so we're up 24.55 so far, about 2,400 bucks. I want to see if we continue. That was a pretty aggressive upside move, and heading into tariff news, again, I still don't know if I necessarily buy that we're not going to go a little risk off, at least before the close. But I don't know if you guys remember early in the stream, we talked about how if we had to break in 19.5, it's almost like the market wants 20K. Which is just confusing at this point. How many micros are you trading? So, well, it's a mixed bag. I'm in 5. Let me think. In 5 of the accounts, I am trading just 1. In 1 of the accounts, I'm trading 2. In 1 of the accounts, I'm trading 3, and in 2 of the accounts, I'm trading 4. So the size is going to be mixed. Average RR and average win rate. You gotta ask, it's completely dependent on the setup. If I'm trading negative, the win rate's gonna be much higher with a negative RR. If I'm trading even RR, like you've seen me do today, then the win rate's gonna be somewhere between 55-65%. Later in the last week and a half, I don't think we've had a single losing trade on stream, which is, by the way, not normal. That will correct as the trade quantity goes up. And then, you know, for those of you guys who are, by the way, buying into what a lot of people tell you, which is you got to go massive reward to risk to make money. That's the way to go. Risk, you know, 1 to make 5. Well, guess what? Probability is going to go way down. Your win rate's going to tank. And if you're only winning 22% of trades, what happens if, you know, that you don't get that after the 5th trade and you hit that statistical outlier where you lose 17 in a row, which is absolutely going to happen with that kind of win rate? You still going to be trading? You still going to want to show up every day? Probably not. All right, let's see if we can take a breather here and push through that high yet again. Is 1-to-1 better for scalping? You know, for scalping, what it ends up looking like, for true scalping, like tight scalping, for a lot of people, it ends up looking at higher win rate, lower negative reward to risk. A lot of times you'll end up risking maybe a full bar average range to make maybe half a bar average range. I tend to extend that out a little bit, but 1-to-1 I think is a good place to sit for scalping. There's no right answer. But I think if you're shooting for, you know, 10-to-1 reward to risk, you can make money doing that. But you have to understand your win rate at best is going to be 11, 12, maybe 15% tops. And do you really want to lose all the time? Probably not. Just for your mentality, right? You can make money with any numbers as long as you procure edge somehow. It's just, how do you want your days to look? Do you want to lose all the time and then have your off big winner? Most people don't like that. I mean, you want to have some fun. Anybody know what the best Apex account to get is? Rhythmic, Tradeovate, or Wealth Charts? I have not used Wealth Charts. I have used both Rhythmic and Tradeovate. Here's my take on this. I'll keep it brief. Rhythmic seems to me like the more professional option. It seems a little bit more snappy. But Tradeovate, I don't know why, for whatever reason, has been more reliable. So with Rhythmic, I do feel like it's a little faster. With my Tradeovate accounts, I have noticed that first trade of the day, first 2 trades of the day, for some reason, are not as snappy. Rhythmic, I don't have that problem. But with Rhythmic, I seem to have more issues than I do Tradeovate, though they are rare. Tradeovate to me seems more like the easy plug-and-play option. Still a good option. Rhythmic to me feels like the more professional option, but then you might have to deal with a glitch here or there. That's what I would say about that. Wealth Charts, don't know, can't tell you. Ron, listen, it's okay, don't get hung up on it. Pick yourself up, move on, try again. Learn from the mistake. Short memory as a trader, it's absolutely crucial. Does Apex let you trade on news events with evaluations? Would it be the whole day or a couple hours before? Apex does not care about news, especially on evaluations. You can kind of do whatever you want in the eval, at least in my experience. The rules are all laid out on the website. Just make sure you follow those and you'll be good. All right, so we're in kind of a collapsing channel here on the 2. I want to see what's breakout. Look at this flat bottom. This thing is tempting fate. We also have up here, but this is crazy. No, I would not buy that flat bottom. By the way, if you guys are getting Apex accounts, code BIG will always give you the best % off that they offer and single day pass, which means you can pass in 1 day if you use the code. Right now it's 71% off and single day pass. So we're kind of in a dual, potentially developing flat range here, kind of sideways channel. I do not like these at all. This is absolutely tempting fate. Probability of breakout downside on a test goes up and up and up with each test. But now we might also be developing a flat top to the upside. That range is, we're still sitting at 26 on the range, which this time of day isn't too bad. You guys remember a week ago, that teal flag at the bottom, which is the average range of the last 10 2-minute bars, that said 12 at this time a week ago. So let's count our lucky stars that it's not 12. Would you recommend building a big balance on a prop account, or should I just take my payout? I think a balance of both is good. I think taking a payout is probably the smart thing to do. Because what a lot of people do is they'll just build up huge balances and then start trading huge, and then they go on tilt and lose it all, and that was your money. So I think just taking the money is probably the smart move in most cases. Now if you're like, I want to scale, I've already maxed out all the accounts, then you can start building a buffer. But I've talked about this on past streams briefly. I think scaling your prop trading horizontally is the way to do it, not vertically. So rather than trading, 10 accounts and just building huge buffers and trading bigger and bigger and bigger, maybe it's better to try to work out the kinks and copy traders and maybe trade market orders or whatever, and then scale to 20 Apex accounts, 5 take profit accounts, maybe 5 Tradeify accounts, Bullinox. Scale horizontally with more accounts with the same size per account, not necessarily going huge in a few accounts. I think that's probably the way to go. Scale horizontally, not necessarily vertically. Now, if you end up scaling, maxing out horizontally, and you're like, well, I want to get even bigger, and you're already making tons and tons of money, now you can do both, but you're also increasing the risk a little bit, but that's part of the game. We are sideways here. Gotta see a break in this kind of flat channel. Now we're really here. I'll get rid of this, clean up the chart as we go, right? Not a fan of this kind of thing. This thing snaps up. And the probability is pretty much 50-50 of which direction it goes. All right, chat, if this thing snaps, let me know. I'll be back in 2 minutes. See, look, now is that so hard? You guys letting me know in the chat. Thank you. We broke. So beautiful. We're testing the 20 EMA. I saw tariff announcements at New York close. Is there something going on at noon? I saw New York close. All right, testing that 20 on the 2. Do you trade Forex? No, I'm not a big fan of Forex for the sole reason that, I mean, there's a few things. Regulation is a little bizarre in the Forex world. There's the break of the 20. I want to see how this works out. There's not, the regulation is a little weird in Forex, but mostly the problem that I have with Forex is the pricing. So when you go through a broker, you're not necessarily getting the actual price because they can kind of like set prices from what I understand, which is not the case in like futures or stocks for that matter, assuming you're using a regulated US broker. And the main thing with Forex is that it's probably the most efficient market in the world. Futures are very efficient, but you can still find edge. Don't let anyone tell you you can't find edge in futures. I don't know why people ramble about that sometimes. That's fundamentally incorrect. That's not true. With Forex, though, I think it's very hard to find edge. So I don't want to play that game. Okay, so I am looking at this bar here to see if we can't get a close near the low. We kind of wicked back up to the 20 EMA on that previous bar here on the 2-minute. Yeah, Jameer, I'm live every day now, 8:15 a.m. Central, and we go for minimum 2 hours, but usually we go for about 2.5, 3 hours. This bar closes in 40 seconds. Getting a little bit of a pullback upside here. Let's see if we can get a close near the low, but I would need it to size up a little bit. Bar, that is. Okay, 25 seconds out. Buyers stepping in. Personally, I'm going to hold off. I'm going to hold off on selling that rollover. I could be wrong. I just don't like how we're coming into this recent flat top here. And we're seeing a little bit of movement there. Not to mention, by the way, secondary is, see how we're 30 points away from going red? Remember how we formed that wedge right around the break-even point on the day? I would want to get 40 points. So to get my last 10 points, we'd have to break through. Not a huge concern, but another factor that I'm considering there. So sitting flat currently, waiting for something a little bit cleaner. Is there a setting on NinjaTrader that disconnects the active data connection after a certain amount of time? I keep getting disconnected through Apex Tradeovate and through Tradeovate. Yes, Tradeovate, for some reason, Rhythmic does not do this to me. But if you're sitting not doing anything through Tradeovate accounts for a while, all of a sudden it disconnects and you have to reconnect. I haven't even thought about looking for a setting. I don't know. Maybe there is a setting to disable that. I haven't. But yeah, I get the same thing. Now here we are wicked, so it looks like holding off, at least initially, was the right idea. Also, I mean, there's a lot of things going on, but you have this, the 20 on the 5. Now that entry would have been right at about 35, and that 20 is about 15 points in the money. So there's a lot of things going on. No, I've not had that problem with Rhythmic. You can find more on the 2-minute or the 5-minute for the 20 EMA. Personally, I think the 20 EMA is a little bit more meaningful on the 5 for the sole reason that there's more people watching it. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy at best. That's all it is. The 2-minute is a less commonly used chart, but it's used by scalpers, day traders. So the 5-minute for the 20 is what I put a little bit more weight on. But I would never trade solely off the 5-minute 20. I need something else. All right, here we are coming into the 20 on the 5. Again, something to consider. This is a good question. Why EMA and not SMA? Or is there even a difference? So I prefer EMAs. Well, here we are testing the 20 EMA on the 5, making that test. I just prefer EMAs because it puts more weight on the more recent data. And oftentimes what you get is you get a little bit earlier move out of the moving average than you would on an SMA. But again, it's all a self-fulfilling prophecy. So it's like, well, which one is more commonly used? I think on futures, the EMA is probably more commonly used than the SMA. That's just kind of what I believe. So here we are. Look at the 2. We're still testing that on the 5, so I can't sell that rollover. Because I know we're going to hang up, not to mention we're 10, 12 points away from that break-even point. If we can get through both of those, all of a sudden that's back on the table, on the 2-minute chart. We're getting a little bit of a bounce off the 20 on the 5. Trying to clear this previous 2-minute bar and come into the 20 on the 2. Let's see what we get. I use your code BIG. Use code BIG, baby. Apex Take Profit Trader. Always the best deal. For 20 Apex accounts and 4 Take Profit Trader accounts, I want to trade them all together. Copy trade them all together, but I don't think I can through Tradeovate. Thoughts? Well, I can only tell you what I do. I use Replicanto, but it is a paid copier. Yeah, I'm not sure about copying both through Tradeovate. Does anyone have experience with that? If they're actually using Tradeovate, can you copy trade all 24 of those without a copy trader, an external copier? Because I use Replicanto and ETP sometimes. Yeah, that's what I thought, but can you do all 24 in Tradeovate using that group trading feature? You should be able to, I think. And then it would be free. Yeah, so it sounds like you'll have to go external. I like Replicanto. It's not perfect, but it's good enough. Do you have market only toggled on all your accounts on Replicanto? So I do right now. Previously, in the past, that's what I've used. More recently, in the last couple of weeks, I was using the ATM copy feature after Replicanto updated, and I had no problems with the ATM copy feature. It was actually working very well until today when I missed a limit order fill on the entry, and then I had problems. So I'm back to using market only just for today. I'll do some testing later on to see if I can get back to ATM copy, but I'm fine using market only if I need to. Plus, it does put my mind at ease trading a lot of accounts. I don't know if I want to be messing with ATM, you know, when we're doing 20, 30, 40 accounts. But today just 9, so that's no big deal. Okay, making an attempt at a move back upside. Holding that 20 on the 5. And attempting the 20 on the 2. I'm going to leave that channel there just so that we can see it on the retest. Did you try ETP? Yep, I did. I like ETP. At this point, the developer has made some updates. ETP is the copier, by the way, that gave me the issue, where it sized me up to 100 micros instantly when I meant to be trading 1. And the developer reached out and said he owned it and said this was a copy trader problem. You did nothing wrong. It happened to you and 4 other people. And it instantly blew 5 funded accounts. So he said, you know what, I'm going to pay you for what it cost you, and he did, and they fixed the problem. So I have only good things to say about ETP. As far as layout, though, Replicanto is probably a little simpler as far as layout, but I know that they're working hard trying to make ETP as good as they can. Yeah, it was great. It was great customer service. I was actually very impressed. All right, coming in here at about 15 points away from a test of that horizontal line we were seeing respected earlier. I would expect a little bit of hesitation. Coming right into that. Now, typically this would actually be a long entry for me. You guys see how we closed right at the high, but we're coming right into that level. So contextually, that shaves a few percent off of probability. Would you recommend going for prop firm challenges as a beginner, or cash account is the way to go? Well, you know what? I think that's a personal decision. I think that if you're going to have emotional issues with a cash account, then you should probably go prop. But with prop trading, you do have to adjust a few things to match their rules. So if you want to try to go as inexpensive as possible and you have some experience, maybe prop's the way to go for you, because you can get buying power for cheap. But if you just want complete freedom, I mean, you can't beat cash for complete freedom. But prop is really an incredible tool for the people who can make it work. But if you're going to go prop, write out a business model. How much am I looking to invest? How long do I plan to keep my average funded account? Because it's not going to be forever. And then also, what are you looking to get as far as revenue generation, return on that investment? And then try to match those numbers, try to make it work. But yeah, listen, with cash, if you're like a real beginner, prop protects you from mass loss. I think one of the worst things you can do as a real beginner is take your last, 30 grand or whatever, put it in an account, and then start trading like 5 minis. That money's gonna go bye-bye, I think, pretty quick. And that's gonna be a really tough pill to swallow. With prop, you're at least protected from that kind of loss. Okay, so we are rejecting a little bit here. Now we're kind of in between that previous level and the 20 EMA. You see we're getting that hang up right on that level like we talked about, which is why that long entry unfortunately didn't happen. All right, guys, well, listen, 71% off if you need some Apex evaluations. Pass in 1 day, get 71% off. You can use code BIG. It will always give you the best deal. And get some evals going. I might trade some evals later on today. We'll see. But I will, again, I'll have a video out for you guys soon in the coming days to show you, demonstrate kind of how I trade an evaluation on Apex and explain my reasoning for doing so and how I don't think it's the right way to do it if you're brand new. And if you're trying to do it as inexpensive as possible, aggressive is probably not the way to go, but I can only show you what I do. So, all right, guys, have a good day. Hope you enjoyed the stream. Tomorrow, 8:15 a.m. Central, I'll see you here. If you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel. All right, guys.